For 20 years, the headline story of education in Africa has been one of arrival. Government built the classrooms, fees were abolished, and we celebrated as millions of children walked through the gates for the first time. But once those children sat down, the data went quiet. For a long time, the focus remained on access, while the reality of what was actually happening inside the classroom remained largely invisible to the global stage. It wasn't that we didn't have data. We had plenty, but it was fragmented. Different regions used different measuring sticks. A test in Senegal couldn't be compared to one in Kenya.
So it's an exciting time for monitoring learning. The not so good statistic is that only 13% of Africa's children meet SDG standards. Just means that we've got a long way to go if young children are to learn to read for meaning, for comprehension, in a deeper fashion that will then empower them throughout their lives. For most people working in education, what really counts is the assessment that determines whether children go up one grade from one year to the next. But what we also need is assessment where we can start comparing to global standards, where we're able to compare African countries to each other, and above all, we are able to compare countries over time.
And now that we can see the picture, we have to face it. The report reveals that among children currently in school, 6 out of 7 are not meeting global reading and math standards. If we include the children who are out of school, that number rises to 8 out of 9. These numbers are heavy, but they are not the end of the story.
The Africa Stocktaking Report that's been produced points to the fact that the vast majority of children who have access to primary school aren't learning the basics at the right level, at the right age that we would expect them to. This data will help consolidate and grow political recognition of this as an issue by combining the picture of what the problem is, the analysis as to why that's happening, and what can be done to solve it. I think we've got a terrific evidence base to build that political commitment and really action improvements in learning outcomes for children across the continent.
Africa is not just a place of challenges, it is a place of solutions. A global analysis found that Morocco and South Africa are amongst the world's most sustained improvers in education. And it's not just the big economies. Look at Sao Tome and Principe, often overlooked due to data gaps. This report shows they are outperforming many larger neighbors. Progress is happening. The evidence for improvement is there, but are we looking at it? An audit of national policies reveals a blind spot. Governments often prioritize input, things you can touch, like desk and meals, while ignoring the learning data, even when it's sitting in their own files.
Government is one of the biggest players and levers in our society. And so if we're going to develop the country, I believe government has to lead that process. That means intervening and actively participating. We have a massive teacher cohort. They are our biggest resource. So for me, if we want to get reading right in countries in general, government needs to value that.
Because based on what we see, the productivity, the economic growth, the productivity of their country will be measured by the human talent that they grow through the foundational level to technical and vocational or secondary school level all the way to tertiary school level. But that is not often the conversation. If we are not tracking whether learning is happening, it would be equivalent to flying blind, because we would assume that by showing up in school that the child learns what was taught. And now we know that data stares us in the face that 9 out of every 10 such children in early grades are actually not achieving what we call learning outcomes of literacy and numeracy.
The era of measuring success by attendance alone is over. Getting children in the door was the first step. Ensuring they learn is the next. We need accountability and data to track progress over time. Africa is making more progress on foundational learning than realized, but the number of kids still not learning the essential basics of reading and math remains too high. Countries need to use the data they have to monitor progress, track success, and hold governments accountable for reforms that are not delivering impact. We need African data that's comparable between countries and over time. Explore the full Africa Stocktaking Report today.